Yeah, before I get started, I really wanted to say I really wanted to narrow down what I put in this review. Um, I am really trying to keep these reviews from getting way too long, but we'll see how it goes. Um, and if I talked about everything in this game that I want to talk about in this game, this we'd be here all week. But I also wanted to get this done before the Mass Effect Andromeda came out, but I didn't. But anyway, I have to say, Mass Effect 1 is one of my favorite games of all time.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I know what I said. But I was kind of surprised when I put the game in to play it for the review. I was kind of surprised my last save file was like 4 years ago. Like, seriously, what happened to the time? Anyway, um, I gotta say, this game is probably the closest we'll ever get to a good Star Trek game.
There are Star Trek games.
Well, the closest we'll get to a good Star Trek game.
Careful. You'll piss off the Trekkies.
Oh, please. Pissed off is Trekkie's default setting. But let me go ahead and get to the plot in a sentence. Uh, Search the galaxy as a super agent known as a Spectre, hunting down another Spectre who is brainwashed by an ancient enemy. Anyway, basically what's going on in the game is in the not too distant future, humanity found an ancient alien outpost on Mars, and that showed us the not only introduced us to uh, a miraculous element known as Element Zero, it also introduced us to the galaxy at large, pretty much. Um, Element Zero is the kind of magical thing that in the game that makes all the sci-fi stuff work. It brought us super uh, faster than light travel. It kind of shows it in the game. There's people with telekinetic abilities, and they're using Element Zero. The way Element Zero works, I have some scientific gripes about Element Zero that I'm going to bring up in another episode, another video. But basically, what it does is when there's an electrical charge through Element Zero, it'll decrease the mass of an object, so you can throw it across a room or lift it or pretty much do uh, the special magic stuff that you can do in the game. It also allows ships to move faster than the speed of light because um, when you go closer to the speed of light, your ship gets more mass because of Einstein talked about Einstein about that. But anyway, basically that gets around that problem. And once humanity discovered Element Zero, they discovered a system of mass effect relays that link the galaxy all together to different peoples and different civilizations. The galaxy is uh, the galactic government is known as the Council. They live on one of the relays known as the Citadel, um, and you work for the government of the galaxy. Yeah, and when you start the game, you get to choose different psychological profiles. Unfortunately, the psychological profiles don't do much outside of a couple dialogue options. It's like, oh, you're a war hero, or you were born on Earth. It's just outside of that, there's nothing really exciting that happens with the psychological profiles. But the class profiles, those were is the gameplay interesting parts. That your classes that you choose depends on what it will affect whether you can use certain weapons or wear certain armors. Um, because like with other or RPGs, people with the magic abilities can't use heavy armor because, well, balance. There is a bit. It is kind of cliche that every member of your team is a different alien and a different class depending on their alien race.
Well, there are two humans in the team.
Yeah, but one's male and the other's female, so there's still the forced diversity.
What is wrong with some diversity?
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the diversity, it's just, hey, this race of people act like this, so that race of people need to be like that, and that race of people need to be in that group because that race of people is like that. That gets kind of uncomfortable. But it is kind of handy that each member of your team is a different class, so you can have a balanced team no matter what class you decide to pick. Because all of the teammates' classes, there's one for each class you can pick. There's basically 6 classes. There's the soldier class, which is like weapons and guns, and they get to use heavy armor. There's the engineer class, which they have abilities that will mess with the alien robots and stuff. And then there's the adept class, which are the people with the magic telekinesis abilities. They're really kind of like Jedi. They get to use Jedi if they didn't have the mind reading and future sight, but with the telekinetic abilities to throw stuff around and create like warps in time and space. Yeah, so it and there's also combinations of the class that's the 3 main classes, and there's 3 classes that combine the other classes. Like there's a class that'll mix the infiltrator. That doesn't sound right. Well, mix the biotic and soldier abilities, or there's a class that'll mix the biotic and engineer abilities. So I prefer playing like those instead of just like the 3 base classes. But let me go ahead and go over the good points and the bad points. One of the good points that I really like in the game is that the humans are basically newcomers to the galaxy. It's not where, like in other games or movies, where humans are just the ruling class because, well, those are the humans. Well, unfortunately, you get to play as a human, which is pretty Commander Shepard, the character you play as, is almost treated as the chosen one, which is a little annoying. But aliens look at humans like newcomers to the galaxy. They're not ruling class. They're up and coming. That's kind of nice to see, and it's kind of nice to have argue for humanity, because there's no reason that humanity's going to be anybody other than just another group of people. And another thing I really like about this game is the villain of the game, Saren, isn't just out to rule the world. Because I want to make a video about why I don't like villains like that. But basically what the villain wants to do is he's working for a group of another aliens called the Reapers. And the Reapers come in every 10,000 years, 50,000 years to wipe out all advanced life in the galaxy, because that's what they do. But Saren, he sees a chance to ally himself with the Reapers that are going to come out and wipe everybody away. He thinks that if he can ally himself with these people, that he can convince them not to wipe us out, instead of just be subservient to them. But unfortunately, that's kind of part of their plan as well. But yeah, I really like it when there's fictions where there's not a guy's out to rule the world, because that's what villains do. It's nice to see villains with more complex or long-reaching goals than just, gotta conquer the planet or conquer the world, because we're just gonna conquer the world. Another thing I like about the game is that you don't have to worry about finding ammo. When you're shooting your machine gun, you just shoot until it starts heating up, and then you crouch behind something and wait for your gun to cool off.
Some would see that as a bad thing.
I can see why some people would say, hey, that's kind of too easy, but I don't like having to manage ammo. It's not the way they explain it in the game is that in your gun there's a big chunk of lead or whatever, and it'll shave off little pieces, chunks of metal to throw at your enemy, instead of having actual bullets that you'd put into the gun, which I like that concept. Although I can see why other people would like actual bullets. Another thing that this game has that's I like over other RPGs is you don't have to loot the dead bodies. As you killing, let's say there's a mercenary on the other side of the field that you shot, and there'll be little indicators that, hey, you've gained this upgrade, you gained this armor. You don't have to go all the way over to the villain you dropped to collect their stuff. It just, as you kill people, your inventory fills up. It's nice not to have to go around looting all the dead bodies. Although there are like loot lockers and chests that you do have to go up and unlock, so it's not like you can just walk around the battlefield collecting loot. I also like that there's a morality system. It is a little shallow once you played it several times, and you get to see that the choices really don't matter much. But it is nice to play a game where you're not, oh, they're talking, better push to the next button because they're talking. Oh, I guess we're not going to listen. The people actually have stories, and you can say, oh, I don't give a shit, and stop talking. And then you'll miss out on the mission. So, or you'll fail or not even collect a mission. And I know that's kind of like an RPG thing. So, but it really, this game really it balances the RPG and shooting game aspects very, very well. So it's a very competent action RPG. And something I also like that a lot of people didn't like is I really liked exploring the planets. In this game, they cut it out of the other later games, but in this game, you can actually land on planets and drive around in a rover, collecting materials and fighting against mercenaries. And there is a monster and a couple planets that you can fight. It's fun to roll around on the planets. In the later games, you just scan a planet and shoot a probe on the planet. Hey, you collected so much material. But in this game, you can actually rove around on the planet. Unfortunately, the rover is a bit bouncy, and the target reticle doesn't always shoot where you're pointing the reticle. But I think they could have balanced improved the rover a little bit. Heck, it could have been fun to have to earn upgrades for the rover. That'd be kind of fun too. But unfortunately, they just didn't. But it is fun to roll around the galaxy exploring planets. Right, let me go ahead and get to the bad things. There is some really, really brutal texture pop in. I don't know. It's kind of an older game, so I don't know how fair it is to judge a game on this, but you'll be halfway through a conversation and the walls will load. So it's like, or you're talking to someone and their face is constantly loading. It's like, oh, yeah, or you'll land on a planet, drive around for a bit, and then it'll start popping the texture in. Also, there's this weird grainy filter over everything. It's called a cinematic filter, and you can turn it off if you want to. But cinematic is just having static play on your screen. It's just weird. I don't know what it was supposed to do. And something I've been hearing on the reviews of Mass Effect Andromeda is really bad in this game as well. It's a lot of the faces fall right into the bottom of the uncanny valley. There will be times where someone looks amazed and shocked, but it's some serious dirt face going on. There will be times where someone's just talking and they'll be talking, but their eyes are huge, bugged out. It's like, oh, okay, dude. And something else that I really don't like it. It happens a lot in other sci-fis. Is all of the aliens, each alien has a specific tribute or attribute. Like all of the Krogan are, which is one race, is super militaristic mercenaries, gotta shoot everybody. Like, and the Asari are, which is another race of blue women, which I'm sure you've heard of, are like peacekeepers and the like diplomatic, and each race has this one characteristic that took out to extreme. I know a lot of sci-fi do that, but it's kind of annoying when they do. It's like a just because they're a Turian, all Turians have a civil-minded ideal. It's just kind of, I just don't like that, and because real life humans, there's a vast majority of different humanity, but when on sci-fi, you always get this alien is like that because it's that alien. Just a pet peeve of mine. Another thing I don't like about it is the autosave is really inconsistent. There will be times where you'll autosave every time you walk between two doors, but sometimes it'll autosave at the very time you land on a planet. And then sometimes it'll autosave 3 planet systems ago. So you'll be fighting a boss, select through a boss, get to a boss, and unfortunately you'll pass away. Reload the file, and I guess you gotta find out what planet you're fighting on, or wipe out a mercenary group and get the last guy takes you out, and then you don't know what planet you're on anymore. So it's like, again, it's an older game, so autosave. You can manually save, so you can take care of that. So that's more of a minor nitpick. Another one thing that really bugs me is all of the hacking and unlock, because when you go up to computer, sometimes you have to hack the computer, or sometimes you have to open a safe or a box, and every single time you have to unlock or hack something, it's the same mini game where you have to push one of these buttons in a certain sequence, and hey, that's the same mini game. Hey, you walked up to another crate, that's the same mini game. Hey, you're unlocking a computer, that's the same mini game. It's like, I don't know. Later games in the series did change that, so there's different mini challenges to open up different things. Like I said before, there is a morality system. Unfortunately, the choices are kind of shallow, because no matter what choices you make in the game, you'll always find the same boss battle and the same dialogue in the boss battle, and have the same effect in the end of the boss battle. So playing through once, it feels like you're actually playing a good, like, involving story. Unfortunately, if you play it over and over and over, you kind of see that you're not really making much decisions. And the last thing that I gotta say is, although I really do love rolling around on the planets and exploring the different planets, there's not much to do on each planet. There'll be there's the Thresher Maw is a giant sandworm that will pop up every once in a while, and you'll have to fight off the Thresher Maw, or there'll be a couple mercenary camps, but other than shooting a couple mercenaries and collecting some collectible stuff on the planet, there's not really much to do on the planets. And when you collect all the collectibles, it's like, oh, congratulations, good job, you collected all the collectibles. Okay, what do I get? Good job, because you collected all the collectibles. It's like, it'd be nice if there was more to do on each planet. And unfortunately, the another bad thing is the when you get into each, no matter what planet you go onto the mercenary base. Each mercenary base is exactly the same. You'll get the exact same corridors and the exact same layout on each mercenary base. So it's like you can at least change which like even if they had the exact same interior, you can actually change the hallways. But no, each hallway you go into is exactly the same, and it's exactly the same interior, exactly the same base every single time on every single planet. There could be a little bit of excuse with using prefabrication um, bases, but that doesn't mean every single base has to be exact same base. It's, yeah, I did give quite a few bad points on this game, but I gotta say, this is still one of my favorite games of all time, even if it could be a little better, I think. But I'm still gonna give it a 5 out of 5 because of the world that was introduced and how well you can travel through the world and the complex story that was alluded to, even though it could be a little more complex. But I'm still going to get a 5 out of 5 perfect score because, man, I love this game.